Hello and welcome back. Today we have Godzilla and Kong themselves from the Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire toy line from Playmates. Both of these are part of the Monsterverse series. You may have seen my previous videos where I took a look at Mothra and One Eye. I have other Godzillas and Kongs in the collection, but I wanted to add both of these in. This one because it would make a actual standard looking Kong, and this one because I quite like the energized look. So yeah, here we have Kong. It's all in the standard open packaging. We've got Kong himself, his accessory, Kong with battle axe. All of the packaging is the same as the previous ones we've seen. We get our cross sale of other figures available. We get a product shot and bio of the film and the character down there. And as always, we get an image of what appears to be the prototype figure rather than the final figure we get. As you can see here, the greys are a little more prominent. Almost looks like the scarring was originally going to be a molded detail, where they've just been painted on here. This one isn't as bad looking as the One Eye or Mothra, but it is worth noting that the backs always seem to have the prototype shots rather than the actual finished product. Here we have Godzilla in an energized form. You get a little aerial drone plane as an accessory rather than, say, a blast effect, which is a bit disappointing given this is his energized form. You'd maybe want a FX piece for him. Back as well, again we get another prototype shot of the figure where it's more of a shaded detail for the energized rather than sort of a big thick wash of the figure. One of the reasons I got this one is because while I really like it, I might actually try customizing this a bit, give him the coat in sort of a grey and then give a blue wash for the energized effect, but we'll see in time with that. Without further ado, let's get these opened up and take a look at them. Got a pair of actual scissors today. There we go. 1, 2. So, parents are definitely going to need to help their kids get these opened and out. They aren't always tough, secure packaging. I understand why they're so well sealed in, given that they are open packaging. You obviously don't want kids ripping them out of the box in the stores, or anyone stealing them or anything. Just as always, it's nothing else underneath. It is just all a case of what you see, what you get. Put those on the trash. And there we have our figures out of the packaging. Let's take a look at Kong first up. So here we have Kong. It's solid body mold It does look like they originally maybe wanted a swivel at the waist, but he hasn't got anything there. He does get swivel and hinges at the legs and knees. Same with the arms and elbows, and then there is a swivel joint at the wrists, and the head is just on a swivel. It's not a lot really to the figure itself. It's done in a solid dark brown plastic with some grey paint over it. I do quite like how the greys got a faint dry brush into the fur there, which is a nice touch. It's a reasonable likeness to the ape himself. Joints are tight, but not unwieldy. He will, or should get, a nice tight grip on his axe, which in itself is brown plastic with an energized piece there, which is a nice touch. It could have easily been a solid colour, but the Playmates did go the extra mile and give us a little bit of paint on that. We get the paint lines for the scars. It would have been nicer if they had been moulded detail, and I do find it a little weird that they're not. Playmates, usually do a lot of moulded detail into their figures, even if they can't, necessarily paint all the bits. Yeah, and if you look here, there are various cuts and breaks in the fur, which gives some real layering to the figure. So yeah, the fact that the scars aren't moulded does seem odd. I believe this is a new mould, or a newish mould for the figure for the film. I've got here his appearance from Godzilla vs. Kong. This is the China neon effect piece from the final battle in the film, and as you can see here, this is a completely new mold and look for the character. Not only different paint tabs, but you got a completely different molded torso. Very, very different. This one's a little leaner, whereas this one it has almost a bit more of a belly. The feet are different, very little narrower. So yeah, we get a completely different mold. The fur on this one's sort of not as prominent on it. So yeah, it's completely different mold. It's not a bad mold. I quite like the figure. I just wish we could have had that torso swivel. I feel that's missing from the figure. But at the end of the day, this is a 10 quid kids toy. It's not supposed to have the highest level of articulation or detail. It's supposed to be chunky and playable, and for young kids to be able to smash around. And this feels like a solid figure. It's got some weight to it. It's got some heft. It doesn't feel hollow. Yeah, and if you've got young kids playing with these, they can bash them together without fear of breaking the figures, which is what you want from these. But yep, there we have Kong himself. I quite like that one. Put him to the side. Now let's take a look at our energized Godzilla. So he comes with this drone plane, which is just molded in a solid grey plastic. There are some nice little molded details throughout. Certainly a lot more there than Playmates would have had to have done for this. You could have easily just had this as a straight line and wings. But yeah, they've put some nice molded detail into that. The tail, as you've probably seen, comes separate and just needs to be connected. It's connected by a ball joint, so you get some nice swivel and range of movement out of there. Depending on the figure, you might need to heat it up, you might not. There we go. So that pushes in. Then all he's got is swivel at the legs and arms. The arms almost look like they want to be on ball joints, or oh, are they? No, they're not. They're just on swivels, but they do look like they want to be on a hinge or ball joint, so it's a little shame that they're not. Other than that, oh, and the mouth opens and closes. If you can see, there is actually a hole in the roof of the mouth for the standard FX pieces for the Godzillas, for the hyper breath and things. I'm going to come on to those bits in a minute. Otherwise, it's molded in a solid grey plastic and then just given this thick wash of blue paint or energy. The product shot on the back of the box is definitely a nicer sort of touch, with it being more of a shade than an actual wash. The legs don't look too bad, but up here there's just too much of the paint clumped together for it to be really excellent. It is what it is, and again, you know, I'm going to stress these are kids' toys, they are not collector ones. At the end of the day, most kids are going to be happy having a Godzilla and having the energy effect. Just as an adult, I'm saying that I would have preferred to have a more subtle shade than the thick energized wash. You get the range of movements at the tail, and the spikes are done in a clear or blue tinted rubber plastic. So it does give a nice energy effect there, and if you hold it up to the sun you can get the rays coming through, which is a nice touch. The mold itself is actually a rehash of the Godzilla mold from Godzilla vs. Kong. With those figures, they came with a battle damage effect where you could pop out a piece of their body. So in Godzilla's case it was the chest, with Kong it was up in the arm. You can see here that the piece is molded in really nicely to the fur, but you could rip them off and have a battle damaged effect, very reminiscent of the original 93 Jurassic Park line, if you remember those. Now with this one, it's clearly a complete reuse of the mold. It has the port for the FX pieces up there, and it clearly has the chest piece molded in, but it is completely glued on. It's not coming off. Potentially if you heated it up you might be able to separate them, but I don't know if anything's painted underneath. Now I have this other Godzilla piece which actually has that effect. So you can see they're using the exact same mold here, and that just pops off and we've got the battle damage underneath, or the wound, or whatever you want to call it. I think that's a nice play feature, and for a kid's toy I thought that was quite cool. I feel it's really frustrating here that they've just taken the piece and glued it in. I get it's a cost-cutting measure, it's a kid's and Playmates clearly didn't want to do a whole new mold for something they already had. However, even as a kid, I would be incredibly frustrated by this. It's clearly there as a effect, and you want to be able to pull that off and have that damage. You know, if you're a kid and you were familiar with the previous line, you'd be aware that it's a battle damage effect, and you would be questioning, well, why can't I do that on this one? Equally, if you're not aware of the older line and you were only old enough to remember the newer one, you'd be going, well, what's this? Why can't I take that off? So I feel that's really frustrating. Playmates either needed to give a new body mold, or they should have just left the play feature as is and just allowed us to have that there. As for the port for the breath pieces, I've taken this from the other Godzilla you've just seen. You can see it's got a little ball joint at the top, and all you do is open the mouth, reach under, and it just plugs in. like so. Now that I feel is missing from this figure, so it's a nice figure. If you're a kid, you're probably going to be happy to have a Godzilla which looks like Godzilla, but I would be incredibly frustrated that I don't have a hyper breath for it, and that for some reason I can't take a chest piece out which is clearly there. So those two bits would really frustrate me as a kid, which makes it hard to recommend this particular Godzilla over the others which are currently on the market for him. So yeah, we have Godzilla and Kong. Overall, they're really good figures as toys. You know, they have some nice painted details and molded details throughout on them. I think Kong is really great for what it is. It's a really nice figure to have with some nice detailing. Godzilla's a bit of a letdown solely because it's a reused mold and the play features from the mold are still visible but aren't included. So that's a bit of a disappointment. Otherwise, it is a nice figure. So there we have them. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon. Thank you.